How to forward your woke agenda. Really, how to forward any agenda. There's a correct way to do it, and then there's a stupid way of doing it, which doesn't work. It backwards is your agenda. So let's say you're a baseball player, and you hate white people, and you love black people. Or you just love black people are equal or better. What you don't do is only pass the ball to the black players on your team, and you ignore the white players on your team, because then you won't be a very good baseball player. Your team will lose. And that's essentially what Disney's doing, and that's what a lot of these people are doing, is they're making their movie, they're filling it with agendas so much that there's no movie anymore. And so they make these shitty movies. And that's not how you do it. It's a very childish thing to do. That's what a kid would do, is only pass the ball to the black players or white players on their team. Another terrible thing to do is to antagonize the people who are not on the same page with your agenda, to create an adversarial situation. Simply put, name-calling is not a good way of arguing. Fallacious arguments don't really work. Yelling at somebody doesn't really win your argument. It just pisses them off, and it makes you look stupid. And calling them names just makes you look stupid and pisses them off, and makes your argument look weak, makes your agenda look weak. Better to calmly explain your agenda and, try to persuade, not beat them over the head with it and tell them what they're supposed to think. And lo and behold, the whole SJW woke agenda is kind of a laugh. It's laughed at. It's a mockery. It's being made a joke. Nobody really has any respect for it. Least of all, empowered black women or whatever. The minorities, they themselves think are embarrassed by it. The intelligent ones. See, the naive, childish people who have agendas, they tend to be all angered by the fact that the people who don't subscribe to their agendas don't really care about their agendas. Like white people generally don't care about black agendas. Males don't generally care about female agendas. But that's just human nature. You don't care about things that you don't really know much about or can't relate to. So it is the black person's job to explain to the white person why it's wrong to be racist or whatever. This certain minority person was telling me how they get so sick and tired of explaining to people how it works with, I guess, lesbian. I forget what it was. Being a lesbian, or how you should treat lesbians, or how you should treat black people, or something. And she just rolls her eyes because it's not. She's like, it's not my job to educate you. You should educate yourself. And I'm like, that's absolutely not true. It is your job. You being the minority, you're the first person who needs to talk about it. And you do need to explain it because other people have no idea. Do you think black people are going to fight for Asian rights? Or men are going to fight for female rights? Generally, no. And if they do, it's usually because they've got a real agenda behind the pretend agenda. Right? Like, maybe the guy's trying to get laid and he wants to date a girl that's all female empowerment. It could be all sorts of things. Or he stands to get money if he supports it. Christopher Reeve didn't give a shit about stem cell research until he got paralyzed. He probably didn't even know what it was until he got paralyzed. And I don't blame him for that, because that's how you get educated. Like, it's unfortunate, but we don't have time to know every single disease in the book. And, of course, he was doing it for selfish reasons. That doesn't take away from the fact that it was important and good that he did it. Another good example is people with disabilities. I used to laugh at people who said, I'm having an anxiety attack, and I would think they were weak. Until I had an anxiety attack. And then it was, oh my God. And all of a sudden, they're not just stupid, weak, crazy people. Depression. I took a recreational substance once, and after that, the hangover of it was incredible depression that lasted a week. And I'm like, oh my God, this is what depression's like? So it's not just people feeling sorry for themselves. When an old man is walking really slowly and he's hunched over and he's in your way, I would be sighing like, oh God, geez, guy, get out of the way, because you just think that the world's all about you. That's their tendency. But then I got sciatica, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I see an old man hobbling, and I'm like, oh my God, the pain he's in, you know? How dare me? I should be ashamed of myself for being annoyed at him for taking so long. Or, you know, I would make fun of people who are walking down the street yelling, screaming to themselves. And until somebody told me, they're schizophrenic, obviously. But she goes, you know, schizophrenics, they never hear nice voices. The voices aren't saying nice things. They're saying, like, kill somebody or blah, blah, blah. Or they're saying awful things. So the reason they're yelling is because they're yelling at the voices to shut up. And it's terrible. And if you can relate to it, you wouldn't be laughing at them. About the case of schizophrenics, she didn't say, you're an insensitive piece of shit. She just said gently, kindly, patiently. She explained it. And I was like, oh, geez. Because people don't naturally want to fight, and they don't want to be racist. They don't want to hate women. They don't want to make fun of people with bad backs. They just don't know. And if you want to convince them, you have to patiently, gently explain it to them. And it is your job. It's everybody's job. You know, I was going on about how I hated the SJW bullshit. And I had one person who got really adversarial with me. And after that, I'm like, oh yeah, I was even more hateful of the SJW movement. And then a friend of mine, though, he's like, you know what? Did you ever complain when they were having girls in bikinis in movies, throwing beach balls around and giggling like idiots? Did that bother you? And I'm like, no. And so he explained to me, like, you know, that's how they've been feeling. And if they're making guys look stupid all of a sudden, well, it's taste your own medicine to a degree, and you can't really fault them for that. That's fine. You know, Brie Larson, if she really was true to her agenda about empowering women that are not white, if she was really true to that, she wouldn't be holding press conferences where she says that white men are garbage, basically. Because if Captain Marvel really was an empowering female movie, she should be encouraging white men to come and see the movie so they can learn how powerful women are, right? But the way she melts off, white men are going to avoid the movie, and then they're not going to learn the lesson about female empowerment. You know, you want a revolution, but you don't know what you're going to put in its place. You take over a country with guns and all this shit. You take it over. But then you don't know what to do. You don't know how to run the new order. Brie Larson, all she seems to know how to do is put down white males, but she doesn't know how to even be a strong female. All she does is all she's demonstrated is that she hates white men. She hasn't demonstrated that she loves females. She hasn't just demonstrated any love. You know, incidentally, I'm wondering. I wonder what these people, these fakes like Brie Larson, these woke people who go around trashing whites or men or straights, I wonder what they would say if you actually asked them things like, what does it mean to be a female? How are females different than men? I mean, like, the first thing you do when you've got an agenda is you teach by example. Brie Larson says in interviews that she doesn't care about 40-year-old white dudes. And then she stars in a movie with Jude Law, who's like a 50-year-old white dude. So she's not even doing the very first thing you're supposed to do for your agenda. Her agenda is female empowerment because it helps her, not because it helps females. Anyways, I think I've made my point. It's funny because think of like the fandom menace, for example. It's like one of those, when two people get in an argument, basically they're just yelling and listening to themselves, and they're not even listening to each other. That's what the Fandom Menace and Disney Star Wars have done. Disney Star Wars isn't even trying to convince the Fandom Menace. They're just making themselves feel better by saying what they're saying, and same with the Fandom Menace. The difference between the two, though, is that the Fandom Menace doesn't need to prove anything to Disney, because they're not trying to sell Disney a product. They are the purchasers, they are the employers of Disney, in a sense. So Disney really does need to convince the Star Wars haters. They should be trying to peacefully convince them that they're not evil, because nobody's going to go see their movie. If you like gays, click like. If you like blacks, comment. If you like women, click notification bell. If you like gay women, subscribe. And if you like gay black women, Patreon, Human Warnings.